Hey everybody, welcome back to Raising the Flipping Bar. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and I'm excited to be here for a solo episode. We're in season 2, and a lot of my episodes are primarily interview focused in this season, but this solo episode is going to be a great case study for a project that we're working on right now in fourth quarter of 2023. So let's jump right in. What this specific episode is about our partnership flip program. And so I'll give you a little bit of context of why this is a great opportunity for these specific clients and then how we got to this point. And so when we are acquiring properties, we typically give people 3 different options. One is just a very straightforward cash offer. And that is beneficial to most folks because you don't have to make any repairs. People don't have to pay any commissions, any closing costs. It's really, really simple, easy peasy, definitely kind of that easy button type of solution. And we can close in a couple days, couple weeks, or even a couple months. You know, we've done deals with clients where they want to find a new property. They're moving mom and dad into assisted living and they need some time and some runway to get them placed properly. So a couple days all the way up to a couple of months. The next option that we have for clients, so we always love to, again, give people 3 different options, is listing the property on the MLS or the multiple listing service. So my team at Elevation, we now have 7 licensed agents that are hyper-focused on investment real estate, but we're also experts on listing properties. And so typically what we'll do is when people are trying to decide, well, why would I want to use Elevation versus, my neighbor who's probably a real estate agent or my brother, sister's cousin or whatever, makes me harken back to the Ferris Bueller's Day Off video. Why would we use Elevation versus somebody else? Because we've sold hundreds of homes in a very short period of time. The average real estate agent sells less than 8 properties a year, and that's average. So if we take that whole 80-20, take out that top performing and producing crowd, the average person sells a couple deals a year, and you don't really want to put that in that person's hands, in my opinion. It's us being, kind of your best advocate to sell the property. The big caveat with that is typically the property needs to be in at least just average condition. If the property needs significant structural repairs, if it's a hoarder property where we've got tons of belongings in there, if we've got to solve all these problems beforehand, people kind of lean towards the cash option. But we can definitely list the property. And the other great thing is we do it for a discount because we want to build long-term relationships and we do a lot of our business on volume. So we can typically charge less than the traditional real estate agent, even though we feel like we provide fantastic service. Then the third option is the partnership flip. So we're going to really dive into that one. That one really is fairly unique to Elevation. And the simplest way to think about partnership flip is, on average, our clients sell properties for about 30% more than the current value. And that's because we fix them up together. So really, it's the best of both worlds. The partnership flip is the ability to maximize all of your profit, and you being either the real estate agent who has a relationship with your clientele or direct to, a specific seller or your family. You can absolutely maximize the most profit possible. The other cool thing about that is my company Elevation pays for all the repairs. The great thing about that is that's materials, that's labor, that's all the fixtures and finishes. That's literally every dime that it takes to completely fix up a property. I'm going to pay for that. And we're also going to use our contractors. So another great benefit is that a lot of times it's so hard to get a call back from a contractor these days, let alone a reliable one. And then on top of that is, how is the pricing? So a lot of times when we talk about our profit share, people say, well, why would I share some of the profit if I could, do another solution and keep everything? Because typically our prices, because we do so much volume with our vetted contractors, is significantly better than the market in general. The other great thing is that as a real estate agent, people get to sell a fixed up property. So again, on average, people are selling properties for about $200,000 more than the as-is value before we fix these things up. So those are the high-level details on why it's a benefit to do our partnership flip program. And so I kind of want to dive a little deeper and walk into how do we determine the numbers and how does this whole thing work? So the first thing we're going to talk about is the as-is value, which means how much is this property worth in its current condition? So what we do is we go in and we do a very deep dive and we do a very intimate inspection of the property. We've got our senior project manager, we've got a handful of contractors, and we'll really match the level of renovations that are needed with the specific contractor that we feel like is the best fit for people's specific properties. We then determine that value also based on what are the comparable sales. The term a lot of people use is comps. So ideally, if we've got a property, we just looked at one in Aurora a couple weeks back, actually, and it was a ranch. First floor was in good shape, had good bones, but very dated. So we know exactly what we need to do to fix up that upper level of the property. And then in this instance, the basement was unfinished. So we're going to look at that. We're going to find properties that are comparable and either have, the property is a little less than desirable on the market. And so we can help that to use as a baseline for how much we're spending and how much we can offer on that property. Ideally, we're going to find ones with unfinished basements. If not, we can find ones with finished basements or also properties that don't have a basement. And that helps us really calibrate what is the value of the property, again, in its current condition. And it can be in any condition. Then we build out that specific budget. And so we're going to really line item and tally up every single penny of where that rehab budget is going to be spent. And something we always teach with our clientele is, on average, 60% of the renovation budget is actually spent on the major systems. So sometimes the tough thing for clients is they say, hey, come look at my hallway bathroom. We just put $5,000 into it and it's beautiful. I won't disagree with that. But the tough thing is many times they haven't touched the roof. They've got a cracked sewer line. They've got a furnace that's 27 years old. We've got windows we have to replace. So while those design and aesthetic pieces are nice and important, 9 times out of 10, where the bulk of the money goes are these expenses that are tens of thousands of dollars, not a $500 vanity in a bathroom. So that's really where the budget gets spent. And then that's where the best bang for the buck is on the back end when we do partner together, because that end buyer really wants to know peace of mind for exactly what they're buying, and they're not going to get hit with these huge big ticket items. So again, people can fix a shower door. They could fix a leaky faucet. A roof can be $5,000 to $20,000. A sewer line can be $7,000 or $8,000 up to $10,000 or $15,000. So those are the ones that we really want to dive into, and we really want to make sure that everything is looking really good there. Okay, so then after we've done our inspection, the next thing that we jump into is our scope of work. And we're really going to, again, pair that right contractor with the level of work that is needed to be done on a specific property. So I'll give you kind of 2 quick examples. If we've got a condominium or maybe a townhome, it's in a lower price point. I don't need to use our most expensive general contractor that is used to fixing up 100-year-old homes in Wash Park. Conversely, if we're listing a $1 million property, which normally we'll do stuff between $1 million and $1.5 is kind of the top end of our sweet spot. Personally, as a company, I'm not going to use the guy that's doing the condo where, yes, I could get a significantly better price on remodel, but that is going to kick my ass on the back end. And it's going to be a terrible experience for us. It's going to be bad for our clientele. So we're really, really honing in on matching the right contractor with the right level of work and balancing the budget. The other thing that we want to do with the scope of work is we do not want to over-improve the property. And this is another reason why the partnership flip actually works really well for a lot of clients, is because it takes your personal taste out of how to fix up the property. Our number one goal is we are hyper in tune with what's going on in the market and what the widest buying audience is for your specific property to get us the best sales price. So if you love beautiful gold finishes, you like the mid-century modern type feel and vibe, but we've got a 100-year-old Victorian home at a lower price point, we're not going to overspend on that property. Another example is egress windows. We typically are going to always put one egress window in the basement so that we've got a conforming bedroom. But beyond that, we know that it's going to be an office, it's going to be a playroom, a hangout area. We don't need to spend several thousand extra dollars to create another egress window that we don't really get a lot of credit for, in my personal opinion. We also then dive into really, again, our fixture and finish package. And we actually teach this. We've got a product called the Elevation Academy where we teach every step of this process as well. But when we get to the section that deals with fixtures and finishes, what we do is we have 7 different ways that we figure out how do we want to fix up this property. So it's kind of this perfect marriage of not having to start from scratch, making sure we know exactly what the widest buying audience wants. But we've got all of those products sourced online so that it doesn't look the same as kind of the run-of-the-mill Home Depot or Lowe's generic fix and flip product. So we're primarily using Amazon, we're using Overstock, we're using Wayfair, and we've got professional accounts on all those. And we just started actually diving into certain aspects of West Elm. They've got great fixtures and finishes. And so for our high-end properties, we're doing that as well now, something we're just starting for this upcoming year. So we really, really make it so it's seamless and it helps our projects run smoothly, run efficiently. And again, it's all about, for the most part, kind of under promise and over deliver is our mantra, especially when it comes to fix and flip, meaning we want to be conservative with our budgets to make sure that we've got the right budget and we've got the right contingency place in plan so that if we open up a wall and find a hot mess of a problem, we go in and we can fix that problem. We also want to be conservative on estimating how much is this thing going to sell for on the back end. So again, we're taking comparable sales and we're really looking at, hopefully in the perfect scenario, what is a fixed up fix and flip property selling for? And we feel like our products can exceed that, but we're still going to price it at the same dollar amount. And then we're also super sensitive to the timeline, making sure that we are really, kind of riding the contractor so they're performing on time, but also not setting unrealistic expectations. So that's kind of the framework of the partnership flip as a whole and how it can be a really great win-win solution. But I know that our audience wants to talk about real specific numbers. And so we're going to dive into a property right now that we're doing in Parker, Colorado. We have not sold it. So by the time this episode actually drops, fingers crossed, we've got great track record to come back to you with and do a little recap. But I'll give you the exact metrics of what we're looking at when we got into this deal. And so I'll give you the client profile to start as a background, because I think a lot of you guys out there will really resonate with how we help this family out. And so the cool thing is this property was brought to us by one of our fantastic real estate agents. And it actually just so happened that she was an independent agent first and then ended up joining the Elevation team because she really is gung-ho about focusing on investment real estate. But these three options that we gave her clients was the main impetus for her to jump on board with us. And her clients were really happy and comfortable that she brought three options to the table instead of just one. And so this property in Parker, Colorado, mom and dad had unfortunately passed away in two different stages and increments. And it was two adult brothers that are dealing with a home that they had lived in and grown up in and had a lot of personal attachment to. And so we are very sensitive to that. We know there's a lot of emotions that can ride high in losing a loved one, in dealing with the property that you might have grown up in. So they were kind of, analysis paralysis for quite a while, trying to figure out what they wanted to do with the property. They were still paying a mortgage. So there was some expense running and the clock was essentially ticking. But for several months, they had a lot of stuff in the house. And so it was typically actually fairly nice items. It was not kind of your classic hoarder house that we typically do. So what was hard for them is they were going to think about doing an estate sale. But with the estate sale, they would have paid several $1,000s to run the sale to potentially maybe net $1,000 profit and have to deal with all the logistics in between. And so what we said is we're pretty good at doing this. And so we said, if we're doing an estate sale and you can, pay $4,000 in this example, but make 10 and pocket that $6,000 true profit, you should do it. And we help clients execute that all the time. We've got 3 or 4 vendors. We're really big proponents of referring out to people that are experts in certain areas and not trying to do everything as ourselves. So if we needed to, we had that ready to rock and roll, but really leaning on our contacts, they said, maybe you make $1,000 for all this time and energy and effort. That's one mortgage payment. And you're actually in the hole. So what we did is we work with one of our contractors and they're fantastic. They were actually able to do a bunch of donations. So anything that's usable, we were able to get recycled and reused for families in need. And then essentially our contractor, his crews took the rest. So instead of having to pay, they felt it was a fair trade for, essentially keeping the stuff that they wanted to keep. Maybe they sold a few things, but my clients didn't have to come out of pocket $4,000 and spend all this extra time and energy and money. So that got the house ready to rock and roll. Then we dove into, again, getting the numbers dialed. We had as-is comparable sales for properties that weren't fixed up and definitely were in need of some love. And then we knew where it was going to sell in the back end based on those comparable sales as well. So let's talk about some specific numbers. This property, it was roughly a 3,800 square foot home. It is 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. It's a big, nice house, and it's an early 2000s build. So structurally, it was really sound. The other good thing about this property is that all the major systems were in good shape. The furnace, the air conditioning, structurally, the sewer scope, everything was in really good shape. So luckily, we didn't have to spend a ton of money on fixing up structural components of the house. We could pour all that rehab budget into the design and the aesthetic of the house. So what we did with this one is we spent, and I'm looking at my notes, we spent $100,335. So I give those specific numbers to show kind of how detail oriented we are. We had an initial renovation budget of $95,200. We always do a 10% contingency. So essentially we had roughly $9,500 set aside, and we're really attuned to the market. And what we saw was we have this property that we thought it would conservatively sell for $800,000. So that's, again, our ARV, which stands for after repair value, or the end sales price point that we are using to list the property at. There's a handful of properties that have already sold in the last 2 months, and actually 2 that have listed that are between $825,000 and $850,000, but they're actually not as nice and not as fixed up as our subject or our client property. So where we're going to do coming out of the gate is we're going to list this at $824,500. So what we did is, yes, we spent about $5,000 more than our anticipated budget, but we made that decision strategically because A, we saw things coming down the pipeline and selling for more. B, I just felt like the property needed a little bit better and a little bit more curb appeal. So we did a little more landscaping on the front, a little more landscaping on the back, and we upgraded 1 or 2 fixtures and finishes. So a little nicer lights and a little nicer faucet package. So we feel like at a minimum, we're always going to try to double and get a better return on investment. So if I spend $5,000, we felt like we could list it for $10,000 more. And in turn, we're actually listing it about $25,000 more. So again, check back. We'll give you the exact dollar amount that we sold this thing for, hopefully within the next 30 days or so. But those are the metrics as of right now. And so in this particular deal, the as-is value is $560,000. And again, that was net, meaning had they sold it for cash, they wouldn't have paid closing costs. They wouldn't have paid commissions to us. They wouldn't have had to fix anything up. That's what would have been their price, because a lot of people just actually take the cash offer. But that was our starting point. We put just over $100,000 to fix it up, and then we're now listing it for $825,000. So going from $560 to $825 is a really nice spread. The great news is we were able to complete the renovations in 50 days. So we were able to do brand new kitchens, brand new bathrooms, flooring, carpet, paint, vanities, fixing drywall repairs. There was a bathroom downstairs that needed a lot of love. So we put a lot of money into this, but we were able to get through a big house very, very quickly because it's got to be, again, a good return. So if the numbers pan out for our clientele, when we split this extra profit, and what happens at closing is they do have a mortgage on this one, but they have several $100,000 in equity in the property. So they're going to get all that equity up to the $560,000. We get reimbursed our $100,335. And then we split the extra profit 50-50 after we back out commissions and closing costs to sell this deal. So if it works as we've penciled it up, they're going to make an extra $50,000, which is just under a 10% return on their investment in about a 3-month time frame. So for them, it was a win-win. They definitely wanted to honor their parents and have a beautifully fixed up home. Obviously, they wanted to make more money so they could split that and do whatever they need to with their family. And they could have chose the cash offer, but they just wanted to, again, breathe new life into the property and obviously make some more money. So that's a recap of a live deal that we've got going on right now. Let me talk a little bit about the benefits of what this real estate agent who brought us the deal. She would have had to have figured out, and I know it was a big stressor on the family, how do you get the estate sale done? How do you clean things out? But more importantly, this is something that kind of was delayed for months. It was hard for this family to make a decision. So it actually got the ball rolling. So that's something that we could have solved. Again, we removed all the items. We donated what we needed to, and then we could quickly jump into the rehab. The agent actually received a commission for bringing us the deal on the front end, and then she's going to get a commission for selling the property, now at over an $800,000 price point. So that's a huge win for that real estate agent. We still do a discount when we go to sell these properties. And so the end seller is still getting a great deal. Not only do they get our access to all of our tools, our expertise of fantastic agents that sell a ton of homes, and we're really good at negotiating when buyers ask for price concessions and credits. We know that, we don't have to give that away because the house is totally fixed up. And then they are obviously selling a super fixed up house. So clients are benefiting because they're saving money on commissions as well. The great thing is that, again, she brought 3 options to her clients and they could pick. This house was definitely in good enough shape. We could have completely just cleaned it up and listed it. But again, they would have had to figure out a lot of those moving pieces, even with our referral base. They could have taken the cash offer, and I think they really thought about it, but they weren't in a hurry to get this done. And I think it was just a nice incremental gain for the family. And like I said, really kind of breathing new life back into the property. And then obviously they went with the partnership flip. So her giving, kind of having 3 tools in her tool belt, I think was immensely helpful for this fantastic real estate agent. So let's dive a little bit into frequently asked questions as we kind of wrap up this partnership flip episode. Number one that I always get is, how do you determine the as-is value and the ARV? So we talked a little bit about it, but just a quick recap. Again, we're looking at what is the current condition of the property, no matter how good or how bad it is. And then we're finding comparable sales in that property's current condition. We back out commissions and closing costs, and that actually becomes the cash offer. So that's how we determine the as-is value. Then we do the rehab budget, which we already talked about. And then normally when we see fixed up properties, we've got a pretty good sense of how much this thing will sell for on the back end. In certain parts of town, usually more in the suburbs where there haven't been quite as many fixed up properties, we'll find a lot of properties that we call homeowner level of finish, meaning somebody's loved the house, it's been well cared for, they've done their updates over the years, but they maybe haven't done cosmetic updates in 10 or 15 years. We definitely find that, as an example, if we're seeing properties where there's a bunch of just kind of decent properties, but nothing over the top and nothing HGTV kind of quality level of finish, and properties are selling for $600,000, we can typically, at a bare minimum, grow the value of that property by 10% by investing our renovations in it. So in that $600,000 example, we feel like we can sell a finished product somewhere between $660 and even $675. So that's how we help force appreciation, and we can help project on how much we're going to sell this thing for in the back end. The better case scenario is obviously we've got fixed up properties that we can use as a comparable sale. And again, we don't fall in love with our product, even though we feel like we put out a better product kind of pound for pound against the traditional Home Depot remodels. We still feel like that's the base price. I don't say, oh, we see comp selling at $750. Our stuff is really nice, so we're going to sell it for $775 or list it for $800. Sell it low, or I should say list it low, let the property run up, get multiple offers, have our clients in the driver's seat, and make more money on the back end. Another one is, can my clients, or if you're the seller, can you live in the home? 99% of the time, the answer is no. 2 reasons. One, it is a nightmare to live through renovations. I've actually done it myself. We made the ridiculous decision of rehabbing our house, our primary residence, during COVID. And that was a train wreck, and I'm in the business. More importantly, our contractors really push back because it's a liability for them. Their insurance, if somebody slips and falls, or, kiddos step on a nail, or there's some problem there, it's a bit of a mess. So 9 times out of 10, either somebody's already moving, they've moved into their next place, it's a vacant rental property, they can stay with friends and family. I've even had one couple who decided to go with a cash offer, but for a minute they were this really cool millennial couple, and I was really jealous actually, is they were just going to travel around, stay in Airbnbs across the country, work remotely, and come back and have their house fixed up. So we can be creative, but 99% of the time, we typically can't have people live in the property. The only time it was potentially an option was we were going to do a really cosmetic remodel. So I will clarify, normally the best margins are when we're fixing up a lot of aspects of the house, but we've looked at things where it's just, let's do a new kitchen, let's do a new primary bathroom and carpet and paint. We're in and out in a month, and we can potentially do that because they could live in the basement. But 9 times out of 10, probably 99% of the time, typically can't live in the property. The next question I get, who designs the flip? That's really us and our company at Elevation. So we have a really beefy contract that really clearly states and outlines what are the responsibilities of everybody, both good and bad, and tries to account for all the possible scenarios. So again, it takes clients' personal taste out of the equation, which can be really important and impactful. Our very first partnership flip that we did was actually on a 4-plex and there were 4 siblings. 2 of them were, 2 of them were out of state. 2 of them were in state. Everybody had different opinions. Everybody had different economic lifestyles that they were accustomed to. What one person thought was nice was very different than somebody else. And so really it helps really make it so that we're the neutral third party and the expert. So we design the properties because we know what sells and we know what's going to make everybody the most money. The next one is, can they still take the cash offer? Absolutely. And actually about 75% of the time, clients decide on the cash offer because it's a simpler solution. It's faster. There is obviously some risk with us fixing the property up that if we go to relist it, even though we want to be conservative, the real estate market could turn and we could all lose money. We also share in the losses 50% too. So I haven't lost money on a partnership flip yet. We did lose money on 2 other regular flips. So I always want to be super transparent that not everything's great, but we've done almost 90 properties to date and we've only lost money on 2 of them. But again, we share in the gains, we share in the losses. But yeah, a lot of clients can still take the cash offer. The thing is, what if the house doesn't sell? Contractually, we are obligated to buy the property at the as-is value. So in this example with the family I just talked about on this Parker property, let's say we list it, nothing happens. Worst case is I'm never going to let it go this long. I'd rather just personally take a loss, get a tax benefit, get the money back and move on to another project. But we would have purchased that property for $560,000. I think they only owed like $200 on their mortgage. So they're still walking away with a nice chunk of change, but that is good. Again, kind of like the Armageddon scenario. And then who owns the property? That's another one that comes up a lot. So what we do to make sure that our interests are aligned is we create a new LLC or limited liability corporation, and we transfer the title into that where the sellers or the family owns a piece and we own a piece as well. So that protects our interest and that makes sure that people don't change their mind and try to sell the house out from under us. But it is still a true partnership. So that's kind of how it works. There's obviously people would want to talk to their attorneys, talk to their accountants. There's a lot of stuff that due diligence that we go through behind the scenes, but that's the simplest way of kind of who does what. So as we kind of wind down on this episode, I really wanted to end this season with what's a unique way that we can add a lot of value to our audience. And partnership flip is going to be the #1 focus for us in 2024, because actually we can do a lot more with, as you know, the amount of company capital that we have, we can do a lot more projects. And it's something that I actually really enjoy as an individual, of helping families out of, you know, stressful and crazy situations and breathing new life into deals. The neighbors are really happy too, because the property was just kind of sitting. It was still well maintained. It wasn't in bad shape, but it's been a win-win for the community. It's a win for the family. And then of course, hopefully we get the end result here in the next couple of weeks, and it's a financial win for everybody as well. Okay. So as we wind down this partnership flip episode, I wanted to give you guys a really unique custom solution on how, either as a seller, we would give people 3 different options and 3 different choices to best fit your lifestyle and your circumstances. Or as a real estate agent on behalf of you or your clientele, how can we be a tool in your tool belt to give your clients 3 different options? And so it's a way that, especially with where I feel like the market is going in 2024, it will be a healthy market. It will be a strong market, but it's not 21 or 22 where you would still put, you know, a super crappy house on the market and have it go way over asking and it was no big deal. This will help people get back to the prices that they thought they could get in the peak of 21 and part of 22. So it's a unique creative problem solution, which is what we do at Elevation as a company. We would love to hear your feedback. We would love to start one-on-one dialogues with people. So please engage with us. Like and subscribe on our Instagram, Elevation Invest, and definitely reach out to us, because there's, not a perfect cookie cutter solution for partnership flip, but we feel like it's going to be a great option for people in the future. And we really wanted to give a specific case study of something that we're doing on a pretty dang big house down in Parker, and we're excited to see the results. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.